Karen,
Yes.
we have all heard ad nauseum that thing about manifesting.
Which thing?
Think positive thoughts, visualize what you want, put it out to the universe, and boom, done, easy.
Sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out we kind of been doing it wrong.
That explains a whole lot.
It does, right? Well, thankfully, today's guest is going to flip the whole thing upside down.
Woo-hoo.
And honestly, once she explains it, you're going to wonder why nobody else has said it this way before. Because it's not about sending a signal out. It's about learning how to receive one that's already there.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. We're talking ancient Jewish mysticism, modern neuroscience, and a radio metaphor that's going to live rent-free in your head for the rest of the week. And by the time we're done, you're going to know exactly why your nervous system has been the main thing standing between you and everything that you want.
And I didn't even know it was.
And, and what to actually do about it, too. So stick around. This one is going to be good. Not that the other ones have, but you know.
My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
both want to believe.
so we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something
Anything.
that will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
Hey there, I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
Welcome back to the Skeptic Metaphysicians, where today we finally find out why your manifestations may have gone straight to the spam filter.
Oh, ouch.
So, quick show of hands. How many of you have you heard of manifesting? Right? All of us, right? How many of us have tried it and thought, this kind of feels made up? Also, all of us, I see you.
Doing a half a hand.
Right. Well, here's the thing. You weren't wrong to be skeptical. You were just working with incomplete information. See, our guest is going to make a distinction that nobody in this space makes clearly enough. And once you hear it, the whole conversation about manifestation, about abundance, about why some people seem to effortlessly attract what they want, while the rest of us are over here making vision boards and hoping for the best, it all clicks differently. She has 45 million podcast downloads, a USA Today best-selling book, and she spent 3 years studying ancient Jewish mysticism in Jerusalem, not on a spa retreat, in Jerusalem during a war.
Wow.
So yeah, she's got the receipts. Kathy Heller is here with us on the Skeptic Metaphysicians. Kathy, how are you doing today?
First of all, you guys are so adorable. You are so lovable. That was so much fun.
Well,
I'm here for this. I'm good. I'm great. It's so nice to be with both of you.
Wow, we're excited. I'm super excited. I've heard you on a lot of shows. I've heard you on your show, and your message is just literally breathtaking. I was driving home from work one day when I heard your show, your message, and I had to pull over and send you a message right away to get you on our show because holy cow. So
that means so much to me. That's such a powerful moment that I could be a part of for you. So
Especially
I love
because he was on a bridge. No, I'm kidding.
you should see me hanging from there. That was pretty interesting. But Kathy, honestly, it's super powerful. It was super powerful. So I just want to dive right into it like we usually do on the show. Kathy, when most people hear manifesting, their skeptic alarm goes off because it sounds like wish hard enough and stuff is going to appear, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your framework is actually quite different. It's a tuning model, not a creation model. Can you make that distinction more concrete for us? Because I think it changes everything about how you engage with these ideas.
I totally need a tune-up.
Yeah, sure. So when I was first studying the ideas of manifestation, this was like in the early 2000s, people were talking about the law of attraction. And I thought it was really interesting. And it kind of made sense because it was talking about this idea of like, what's magnetic, and what is it about us that sends something out that becomes magnetic, right? And it kind of gets you to really think about things in an interesting and exciting way. And there's something to that. And then when I was in Israel, I was studying in Jerusalem. It's an amazing story of how I even got there because I got lost in Orlando and wound up meeting a Kabbalist, like, of course, likely story. And I was at that point, 19 years old, had never really sunk my teeth into what are the laws of the universe? Is there a God? Am I connected to this, force? None of that. I was just like a 19-year-old kid. And happened to bump into him. And this was like The Alchemist, like, name a book that goes on the hero's journey. And he said, I'd love to invite you to join my wife and me and my 7 children. You could come for the summer. And I was like, what does he want from me? Like, what do I have to do with this?
Right.
And so he also, it's funny, I have freckles and reddish hair. He has freckles and reddish hair. And I felt like he was like this father that like I had never had. And he was so loving, and the love was so unconditional and so present. And it really moved me. And his wife is incredible. And I felt so blown away by the two of them and the way they loved their children. And they were like, well, you're graduating college next year. Why don't you come the summer after college? And I figured, well, that's not a bad idea. I didn't have any plans anyway. So I may as well go. And I thought I was going to go for 3 weeks. I said, I'll come for 3 weeks. And they said, great. So I arrive in Jerusalem, 3 weeks. And, I'm thinking like, I'll have some falafel, I'll have a little hummus and like pictures, and I'll leave, And I wound up having conversation after conversation with him, and I couldn't stop crying. And I think tears happen when our soul recognizes the truth. It just moves you. It's not something you can put into words. And the first thing he said to me, we were sitting outside on his porch overlooking the old city of Jerusalem. And he said, you are a masterpiece because you're a piece of the master. I mean, how does that not make you cry?
Wow.
Definitely.
And he said it and he meant it.
Yeah.
And because he said it and he meant it, I believed it. And he said, you're someone because you're some of the one. And the thing about even the question you asked me is that most people, when they're asking these questions about manifestation, they're looking in the wrong place. Where are they looking? Outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Where is everything? Within you. Right. And so the first lesson from Rabbi David Aaron was, it's always inside of you. And he said to me like this, he said, listen, God is God, but I'm going to give you a metaphor. He said, if God was the sun, which God isn't, but he said, let's say God was the sun, you'd be a ray of that light. Does that make sense? And it started to make sense, right? Mm. And there's this beautiful story that Gary Zukov told me years later. And he said, I think it's from a Native American tribe, and I forgot which tribe it is. But he said the story is teaching a similar point, which is that I guess God comes to the animals and said, I want people to become seekers, right? And we all know that every great story is about a seeker, someone who goes on the journey. Even the Karate Kid, like he is a seeker, right? And he finds his sensei, right? Because he's seeking something bigger. And so God says to the animals, I want people to become seekers. And so he said, I'm going to hide until they've had the satisfaction to find me. And so one of the animals is the bear, and the bear says, let me take you, and I'll take all the answers in the universe, and I'll take you deep, deep, deep into the woods. And God said, no, they'll get there pretty quickly. They'll find me in the woods. Mm-hmm. So the eagle says, God, I will take you and all the answers in the universe, and I will fly as high as I can. And God says, no, they're really smart. They'll get there real fast. And then the mole, who apparently in this story, maybe I don't know enough about animals, but she's blind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she walks up to God and she whispers and she says, put it inside of them because it's the last place they'll ever think to look. And God says, that's it. That's it. Right. And that is every story, right? Everyone's listening to a podcast. What do I need to do? Scroll on their phone. What am I going to find on Instagram that gives me the answer? And all the time, right? You have inside of you. I was just interviewing my friend, Dr. Lisa Miller, who's incredible. She's at Columbia. She spent 30 years studying what happens to the brain and the body when we have a connection to our spiritual life, right? It's amazing. And she said, we now know the mind, what we think of as the mind, has no answers. All the answers are in the heart. And the whole purpose of the mind, she said, she studies this on MRIs, is that inside of the center of the brain is an antenna that leads us to connect to our intuition, which isn't in the brain. It's not actually in the mind, okay? It's that we are connected to where all the actual wisdom is, it kind of moves through us like a radio, okay, which is amazing. So now going back to Jerusalem, let's go back. I feel like Wayne and Garth, it's like, let's go back. So now we're back in Jerusalem. So back to 2001. And Rabbi Aaron says, let me explain it like this. He said, you've heard of the law of attraction. I said, yeah. He said, okay, so what we know from scripture, okay, is that Abraham said it differently. Okay, Moses, Jacob, Isaac, they say it differently. It's not the law of attraction. I said, so what is it? He said, it's the law of reception. Because the words in Judaism, this is why I started learning Hebrew, because I wanted to actually know, like, what is the language that Moses spoke, that Jesus spoke? I want to know the words. Like, I want to actually, because sometimes the translation is not, in fact, even though the word for Shabbat, which is the Sabbath, it means to meditate. We say it means to rest.
Right.
Well, if you're in a meditation and you fall asleep, is that a good meditation? No, it's actually highly awake, but very connected. That's different. That's a different word, right?
Absolutely.
So I started studying Hebrew because I was like, I want to understand it, not somebody who translated it 15,000 times later. What is it? What does the word mean? So he said, the words that we were given, the word Kabbalah, for instance, means likabel, means to receive. Okay. So he said, our only job is to be a receiver because all of it, he said, is already hidden in plain sight. So for instance, okay, first of all, going back to your question, when people talk about manifestation, they are doing what? They are looking at the evidence, okay, of their life and then asking for what they want that they perceive is not there. But the eyes don't see. We don't see with our eyes. We see with our soul. How do we know that? Because when John F. Kennedy said we're going to land a man on the moon, that's vision. Real vision is something further than what you see with the naked eye. People who have changed the world, when Steve Jobs came up with this idea for Apple, that's a vision. When Walt Disney saw this world of Disney World, before it was Disney World, it was a swamp in Anaheim. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a swamp to him because he had the vision and he sold air. He sold a vision to investors. They believed in a vision and then it came to life. And apparently he passed away before, I guess, Walt Disney World was open, Disneyland. And I'm from Florida, so I'm like, sorry guys, Disney World is awesome.
So are we actually. So we totally understand. That's Disney to us is Orlando.
Right? If you don't have Epcot Center, we're not even in the conversation. Anyways, the point of it is people said, oh my God, he didn't live to see it. And his closest friends and his children said, are you kidding? He's the one who saw it. Okay. So we don't see with our eyes. So this is where it starts to get really clear, right? You're even feeling it as I'm saying it, right? It's like we're sitting here with vision boards and all we're doing is saying, where is it? Where is it? It's not here. It's not here. So what Rabbi Aaron said, this radio metaphor, I love how you said it's going to live rent free in your head for a week. I love it. It's been living rent free in my head for 25 years. So I get it.
I'm right there with you. It's been in my head for a very long time. So.
Yeah. So he said, and by the way, since he said this to me, I hear a lot of other people say it, which not because of him, because it's just a great metaphor. Right. But what he said was the following. He said, a radio, if you put a radio in this room and you turn it on, you will hear music. Mm-hmm. Where was the music before you turned on the radio? Like right now, as you and I sit here, the three of us, we're here in this moment. We're not hearing music, but it is here.
Right.
It's all around us. If I turn the radio on, it would literally be here. This is not like a woo-woo idea. This is reality. Okay. Mm-hmm. But then he goes further and he says, so if you turn that radio on, maybe you'll hear a song. Maybe you'll hear static because you're in between two stations, right? My kids have no idea what I'm talking about because I grew up in the 80s where like we actually had rabbit ears and like all they have is MP3s and they play perfectly crystal clear music every time. But Rabbi Aaron says the following. He says, so you could turn the radio on and maybe you're going to hear oldies. You're going to hear Diana Ross, but then you're going to turn it again. You're going to hear hip hop. You're going to hear Drake. Then you're going to turn it again. You might hear a baseball game. You go into AM radio. So he said, so not only is there music hidden in plain sight, is there a broadcast hidden in plain sight? That's true. That's a fact. But there are multiple broadcasts hidden in plain sight. And now you have to ask yourself, okay, so the broadcast that's playing, the life that you are watching, that you are experiencing, the song, so to speak, who's selecting it? You are. Okay. God, in God's infinite wisdom, says, okay, you're going to be a soul, you're going to be a soul in a body, you're going to go have a life. Cool. Let's make this fun. I'm going to give you something called free will. Okay. I'm going to create all these possibilities, and you, with your free will, are going to be able to get into alignment. And the higher you go, the higher your vibration, the more love you perceive, you're going to change that song. So every single day we wake up and we think we have control over a lot of things. We really don't, right? Our one job is, can I manipulate my own field? Can I change my own energy? Can I drop in so that I see further than the mind? I see with my heart, that I see the way God would have me perceive. And so every single day I say to people, the same way you select what you're going to wear, right? Like today I was like, I had played tennis with my daughters earlier, and then we came home, we had some lunch, and I was like, well, I'm going to go on this podcast. I'm going to wear this like cashmere sweater because it just feels a little bit more elevated than like my t-shirt, right? So I selected this to wear because it makes me feel a little bit more elevated. Every single day, whether we know it or not, we are selecting what we're going to think, what we're going to feel, right? So some people wake up every day and they just play that static again because they're feeling lack, doubt, self-doubt, self-criticism, shame, anger, right? And when you do that, what will happen? You will play that back all day long. The world will reflect it. You'll be like, oh my gosh, you know, I went on a blind date, didn't like the guy. You know, this happened, got a flat tire. Somebody else, right, who's tuned into everything's happening for me all day long. I'm in a text message exchange with the divine. I just can't wait to be of service. I can't wait to be of use. They're like, oh my God, I went on this blind date and you know what? It didn't feel like a match, but I know someone for this person and I feel so useful because I know this person's match. And oh my God, it was so cute and da-da-da-da-da, right? When we walk into a room and we feel lack, so then we walk into a room we need from everyone else. But when we walk into a room and we feel whole, we're coming into the room to give something to everyone else. And all of a sudden, the room feels like love, right? We know that there's a law of entrainment where, and you said it earlier, which I love that, Will, you're just so smart because you added so many things to that intro. But when somebody walks in a room, you feel their nervous system immediately. We all feel each other. If somebody walks in doubt, in lack, in urgency, doesn't feel good about themselves, you read it. You can read it. Doesn't matter what they're wearing. Doesn't matter what car they drove in on, right? It matters where are they attuned within themselves. And when somebody walks in and they're feeling loving, they're not walking in needing anything from you. And now they've actually leveled you up. And there's something happening. There's space that just happened in that room. There's connection that's happening in that room. You feel good just being around this person, right? And that's a blessing. And so there's so much more I can say, but I'm going to pause because I think I answered your first question.
So I have a question. How does someone, change their station per se when they don't even know there's a dial?
Yeah. So first of all, most of us are raised around well-meaning people who are doing the best that they can, who they think it's all on them. They don't really have a connection to the idea that there is something called flow state. Okay. Like flow state, what I love about that is from a scientific lens, we now know what that is. We can measure that. Okay. We can measure the brain when it goes into the gamma, and we can see that Michael Jordan on the court, similar to Picasso when he's painting, they're both in flow. Okay. That's an actual state. So what's helpful about being in 2026 is that this isn't all just kind of like nice to hear. We actually have receipts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people, though, even though it's true, even though we have the data to show what it looks like when a person has created the environment for which some magic will take place, we now know what that environment looks like, right? Jason Mraz told me, like, when he's going to go write a song, he has to let his creativity be the muse. He has to give himself over to his creativity. So he walks in the studio. He's like, all right, show me. Pick up a shaker, pick up a guitar, play this. He's got to get out of the way. Okay. It's the same thing. Dr. James Doty, may he rest in peace. He told me, his book, Into the Magic Shop, he goes, he's a doctor. He was a brain surgeon. He said, doctors don't heal people. Doctors create the conditions by which healing can hopefully take place.
Right.
Okay. So what actually is happening, our parents, most of them, they haven't really looked into this very much. And so people walk around feeling very separate from whatever forces there are in the universe, feeling very separate from their capacity to know their intuition or to just trust and be led, right? And surrender their need to do everything. And so I think, first of all, it's really helpful to question what is our belief, because beliefs are agreements. Okay. A thought is something you think, and then it makes you feel a certain way. But a belief is a thought you thought so many times that it's law. And I think the responsible thing to do as adults is to actually sit down with our beliefs and do a little audit. Like, is this really what I want to select? I could select anything. So do I really want to select that in order for me to get out of this life unscathed, I have to be a people pleaser? Is that a belief I really want to continue to believe? Do I really want to believe that it's all on me and there's no grace and there's no intuition and I'm in this on my own? Like, we have to kind of take a hard look at that, first of all. And then second of all, what's so powerful is, the word education comes from the word educe, to pull out of a child, right? Meaning and I say this every time I give a workshop, everything I'm teaching, you knew it already. And so sometimes the simplest thing to do is to get quiet and start to become really connected, to ask yourself, what does my soul want me to remember today? What do I actually know that a part of me forgot that I actually know on some level? And then there's some equanimity that comes in, right? Because the heart has the answers, and the heart is always full. It's never in competition. It always sees the big picture, right? It's the mind that goes into fight or flight. And one of the things I say is, basketball players are good basketball players because they anticipate what the next person might do. When you wake up in the morning, I say, if you can give yourself 5 minutes before you start reacting, picking up your phone and reacting to life, but you check in, you connect, and then you're responding to life, then I would wake up every morning anticipating your mind is going to play the same worst case scenarios every day. That's what minds do. That's what the mind does. So it's not interesting. It doesn't make a person deep. It's just what the mind does. So if you anticipate that, you can say, okay, I'm going to be ahead of it, which means every morning now when I wake up, I'm going to be disciplined to spend 10 minutes and take a walk outside. As simplistic as this sounds, if you were to actually start moving away from being in the habit of just buying into this barrage, this snowstorm of old beliefs, and you took 10 minutes in the morning and reached for something greater, read something inspiring, set a vision for your day. These are the beginnings of how we start to inch closer to finding what lies at the center of our being, which is many, many more layers of this answer.
You got it?
I got it.
and you're touching a little bit on your morning practice, right? You have a morning practice that's the 90-second feeling selection ritual. What does ease feel like in the body? Like, what does joy feel like? Right? Because a lot of people, when they wake up in the morning, with everything that's going on around the world, or, everyone's feeling something is weighing heavy on them, it's not the easiest thing in the world to wake up and suddenly feel at ease or feel joy because something is happening at that particular point in time. And from what I understand, if I understand it correctly, we have to allow that feeling of joy and ease to lead the way for us in order for us to tune that radio station to something that we actually want to have, to receive. I don't even want to say manifest anymore, to receive.
Yeah.
So how does someone get to that point in light of everything that's going on right now?
Well, first of all, there's always been something going on in the world,
And I asked that specifically because you learned this in the middle of a war, right?
I was at that point. Yeah, that was during the Second Intifada, and there were tremendous, there was bus bombings and suicide bombings, and for me also having no background to be familiar with that, it was definitely hard, right? And very like, whoa, like I grew up in South Florida, like we listened to Wilson Phillips and went to the mall on Saturday. Like, and these people were like, very resilient. Like, okay, here's what you do. And the siren goes off and then you go to the shelter. I'm like, what is happening right now? And it's interesting because even in that time, I was so happy. I was so deeply mesmerized and in love with the universe and had new glasses put on myself that I was seeing the wonder of everything that I didn't even want to leave. Yeah, right. So, and I just kept extending my trip.
Well, that's exactly why I point that out, because for those that don't know what the Second Intifada was, that it is a point where everyone in public spaces were incredibly vulnerable. So people riding in their buses or people in public, in a cafe were worried that they would get bombed, that there would be
100%.
Right. Yeah. So in the middle, this is an area or a time frame where people lived in terror when they were out in public.
Totally. And also this was during September 11th, right? Because we were experiencing it there. And then it also showed up here on the American front. And so the world was in that was a really scary, that was like bigger than what anyone had ever anticipated. Right. And everybody was kind of feeling that. Yeah. And also, right, you could put your finger on any time in history, right? Whether it was like Genghis Khan, the Black Plague, like, the Spanish Inquisition, the Aztecs, there is no time. That's the thing. Every time somebody says, well, what's going on now? Your grandparents would have something to say to you about that. Right? And their grandparents would have something to say. And so that's not that interesting, right? It's not that interesting. What's more interesting is this. What's more interesting is that I coach about 10,000 people a year. Okay. And what's more interesting than what we were just talking about, which is what's happening around us, is what's happening within us, because people say to me all the time, the same refrain, gosh, you know what I want? I just want to feel that ease. I want to take my girlfriends to the south of France. I want to, wake up every day and like Snow White speaking to the birds outside. Feel this. And I say to them, but do you? Because the truth is, most people go on a vacation and they start getting antsy. They pick a fight with their spouse, right? Or a lot of people win the lottery and then they sabotage the whole thing and lose the money. 6 months later, back in the same place. So what's going on is we are so addicted to stress and pressure, right? I was talking to a friend the other day and I said, she's doing well, but she's exhausted because she's just a workaholic. She works all the time. And I said to her, at this point in your business, you could probably make a few changes and you could probably work less and not be trading time for dollars so much. And what came out of the conversation was, what would I do with the white space on my calendar? I don't know what I would do with myself. Right?
Yeah.
And then the next thing that she said was, then I'd have to face what's going on in my marriage. So I'd rather just keep working. So the honest thing is, we have to build our capacity. Okay. And so one of the other metaphors I love is the idea of light bulbs. Okay. Because there are some light bulbs that are 45 watts. They can handle 45 watts of light. And other light bulbs are 75 watts. Other light bulbs are 1,000 watts, right? And so I say to people, think of it this way. All God is capable of doing is pouring light into the world, on tap all the time. The question is, do you have the vessel that can receive it? And if you ask most people, when anything shows up that's delightful, hi, you look so beautiful. People are like, oh, this? No. How about, thank you, I received that. When someone goes to lunch with you and your friend says, let me get this one, do you protest and be like, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable? Absolutely not. Where is your capacity to receive what's right there? Oh, it's not really there, is it? Right? How many times has somebody asked me, do you want us to help you carry this out to your car at the grocery store? Oh, I've got it. What do you mean? Also, you give people so much purpose when you say, thank you, I love that. And why we deny that is because growing up at the age of 4, 5, 8, whatever it is, number one, whatever our parents' vessel capacity is modeled for us. Okay. And people grow up around parents who don't necessarily model. You can trust other people. You know, you can trust God. You can just receive. No, a lot of parents are telling their kids, what are you doing? Did you mow the lawn this morning? You got to get to work. You got to be productive. You got to earn it. Right? You look out at the trees, look out at the birds. They're not in a rush. They're just saying, thank you, God, I receive it. What do they give? What does nature give us back? Everything.
Right.
Because it's not urgent. It's not rushing. The redwood trees are just saying, I'm meant to be this tall. Right? And the central prayer that Abraham brought down, right, was God is one. In Hebrew, it says, Shema Yisrael, God Elokeinu is one. What does it mean? It means we're all one, right? Every wave is a wave in the same ocean, which means when you're thriving and you come out of your house to get the newspaper and you say hello to your neighbor with love, you just shared that. It just gets passed, right? So when you walk into Starbucks and you're having a great day, you're emanating that. Other people, we're all one. Same thing with a garden. If one tree starts to get a little bit diseased and there's some weeds, you got to pull that because eventually it's going to affect the whole garden. So when each of us decides that it's not selfish to feel good, right? That actually by us feeling that we're a lightning rod for more love, more compassion, more empathy, more inspiration, more abundance, we continue to create that. I'll give you another hard, tangible example, like meaning hard that you can feel it. Money is a great example. Okay, the word currency comes from the word current. It means to keep moving. So money has always been a perfect example of oneness because it's circular. Here's what I mean. Before a person tithes, like I'm a big tither. I'm really into it because I just know the way God keeps the book. So I'm like, I'd rather like give it and watch it come back 10 times 10. But the point of it is, before you even do that, before you even give charity to anybody, just having money. When you put money into a bank, what is it doing while you're sleeping? Funding somebody's mortgage, sending somebody else to college, right? That money is being used, okay? Because we are one. It's one system, right? So just having the audacity to be abundant, you created more abundance instantly for somebody else to partake in.
Right. As opposed to scarcity mentality that's everywhere these days.
Right. And so people actually, before you even get to what does it feel like to feel good, people don't even feel permission to feel good. There's this feeling of, am I even allowed to feel good or am I doing something wrong by feeling so good?
Right. So how do you, and so diving even deeper, I hear that loud and clear. Sometimes we go around really believing that we feel good, right? The lady that didn't realize that her working so hard was really keeping her from thinking about her marriage or the white space on the calendar.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get to the point where you actually go, I mean, obviously you can reach out to Kathy and Kathy will get you on the right track. But if someone can't do that, how can I sit down and realize that the reason why I'm facing burnout on a daily basis is that I don't want to look at what's going to happen if I don't have that job anymore, for example?
Yeah. At the end of the day, we have to make our lives feel like a sanctuary. We have to choose mornings that feel like prayer instead of pressure. We have to have the audacity to sip our tea slowly, meaning to say that the universe is not a vending machine, it's a mirror. And what people call lucky, if someone says that person's lucky, it's not lucky, okay? It's that the universe will always return to you the evidence of what you perceive, okay? In science, we talk about the observer effect. Einstein said that when you observe a particle, the particle literally changes because of how you observed it.
Right.
So if the three of us, if we all went to Central Park and sat on a bench, we would see it differently. We're observing it. We would tell each other, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. No, I saw that guy. That's what his intention was. And you're like, no, I thought he was just being nice. And I'm like, right. Because whatever is true for us will make it true. Well, in fact, now they say that people go back and siblings will recount the same stories and they will recount them totally differently. I mean, my sister and I have a completely different lens of my parents. And it seems similar until you get into the nuances of it, and it's not the same, right? So our job is to understand that whatever we believe, we're right. Okay. And so we want to really look at, okay, so what do I believe? And what is it costing me to hold on to this belief, right? And so one of my favorite tools in Judaism, one of my favorite tools in scripture, is God doesn't say, I need you to overthink. I need you to overfunction. God says, be still and know. That's it. So practicing what seems so indulgent. We live in a culture that says the harder you work, the more effort you put in, the more you get back. Well, that is the world not according to the way that we were designed. Because the truth is, right, what I said about vision, what I said about Walt Disney, what I said about Steve Jobs, the slowing down is the speeding up. Because when I actually slow it all the way down, when someone's meditating, when they get slow, when they do be still and know, the mind goes into gamma. And where is everything created? It's created in consciousness. Consciousness creates matter, right? How did God create the world? Let there be light, let there be this. So what we think is actually productive by just coming from a smaller state of our own being and trying to like muscle it, we're going to create a lot less than when we have a vision, a bigger vision, because it's our resonance and our vision that actually creates. So we would be more productive playing pickleball, taking a nap, going on vacation, going to a museum, looking at beauty, feeling connected to your heart, really opening up, right? Everything about your senses so that you could receive a download. You would be better at creating relationships in your life. You'd be better at creating money in your life from that place than you would from not seeing beyond the physical plane and just thinking that it's your job to hustle more, work harder. And that's a choice, right? And those two people have a different radio station selected.
It can be so scary though, just to, like, for example, for someone who earns the living for the family, and they're in a situation where they're burnt out and they're ready just to get out of there. And it sounds ideal, but the thoughts of, well, who's going to pay the bills? Are we going to end up homeless? How are we going to eat? Like, how do you get past that?
Yeah, because unfortunately that we really all bought into that. Like the interesting thing is, okay, so the people that make the most money in the world work less than the people who make less, right? If you're on your feet, a 9-to-5 job, you're not making as much money as, for instance, there's a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, and he gives a sample schedule for Oprah, right? He says the billionaires of the world know that their biggest chess move comes from being in the most coherent place within themselves. Okay. So he said, here's an example of a schedule for a billionaire. She wakes up, has her green juice, does yoga, checks in, starts to feel really resonant. Then she reads a really good book. Then she takes a walk. Then she has one meeting. And when she walks in that meeting, she expands everyone in the room. And everyone has better ideas just because she's in that seat and she's generating a higher resonance, a higher capacity to see. Okay. And from that place, they make a quantum leap in the business. And then she knows the rest of the day, her job is to go tune her instrument, right? If you listen to Bob Dylan, if you listen to Elton John, they're like, I just woke up, the song just came in. Okay. Yeah. We believe that it's on us. It's so scary to let that go. Yesterday, I was with my friend Amy Purdy. She lost her legs from the knees down when she was 19 to meningitis. She went on to be in the Olympic Games. She was in the Paralympics. She's a snowboarder. She's the first person to snowboard on 2 prosthetic legs. And Her whole life is a miracle. But she knows, she understood, right? When her story, she was also on Dancing with the Stars and she won runner-up. She should have won the whole thing. She was phenomenal. But she tells the story over and over again, and there's no amount of times you can hear it that you want to hear it again and again, right? Because it's the story of David and Goliath, okay? David is really small. He's a kid. He's like 13 years old, right? And Goliath, they say, was like 7, maybe 8 feet tall. And these two armies, right, it's the Philistines and then the Jewish army. They're like, forget having to lose all these people. You just send your best person. We'll send our best person. And they're like, I guess we're going to send David because he has the most spiritual equipment. And he goes out there and Goliath is like laughing like, oh my God, this is who they sent. And he's like, well, you're just coming from the place of your strength, but I have the backing of God. I have a spiritual strength on my side, right? And we see this time and time again, right? The person in the room who wins is the person with the most certainty, right? The person with the most love, not the person with the most fear, right? The people who move humanity forward the most impressive thing in a room is love. And what is love? Certainty. Because when somebody is afraid, what do they try to do? Control. And when somebody's in a state of love, they let go. They let something else happen. And that's when they actually just took their Jedi power back, right? In a relationship, you can either love the person or control them, but you can't do both.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we come from that place of love, Byron Katie she tells the story that she was held up at gunpoint. And she looked at this man. And it was nighttime, and she looked up at the sky and she said, look at the stars. They're so beautiful. And he left. Right? She just surrendered trying to fight. She just moved into a different orbit. And he didn't know what to do with that. Right? Love is the most impressive tool we have. Love is not afraid. And we don't come from that place enough. So we come from fear, and then we try to muscle it and effort it. The people who get paid the most, because you were talking about career, they get paid to be in the room. They get paid for their vibe. They get paid for their vision. I was talking to my friend the other day about Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm like, it's her. People want to be around her. They want to be around a nervous system that's that clocked in, that doesn't need anything from the outside. And by the way, here's the real thing I'm going to say. Let's say you do get all the acorns and you make it happen because you made it happen. You made it happen. You made it happen. Is that really the prize? No. The only reason people want a Range Rover or a trip to Italy is because of how they perceive it will make them feel. So what I'm saying is the real richness, we don't live in, whether you live in a 2,500 square foot house or a 9,500 square foot house, you really live in here. That's where you live, right? And so what I'm saying is when you are afraid of losing what's outside of you and thinking it's all on you and you're going to live your life that way, you're poor. You're really poor, right? Sophia Amoruso built this thing called Girl Boss. And she started by upcycling things on eBay, and she was just like making $100, making $300. Next thing she knows, she makes $1 million. Then she grew this to $100 million. She had all these investors, whatever. Then the whole business collapsed. It went bankrupt on its face. And she winds up losing everything. And she and I were on a Zoom call. She was in Kauai in a 500 square foot little bungalow. And she said, this morning, I woke up like I did yesterday. I had some celery juice. I swam in the ocean and I did some yoga. And I can't believe I ever thought that 10 years ago when I was making $100 million a year that I was rich. Because this morning, this is the richest you could ever feel. I feel peace. And now she's rebuilt a new business, but from that place. Okay. It's intention that creates effect. It's not cause and effect. But if you want to live in the world of cause and effect, you're just going to keep setting a goal and moving the goalpost, because until you feel the peace, the love, the wholeness, the coherence, it doesn't happen. People win the Oscar and wonder why they're depressed the next day because they thought that was going to make them feel peace.
Mm-hmm.
What you're looking for in an Oscar or in a Range Rover, it's in you. And until you get that, you're poor. So is it scary? Or is it the best thing that ever happens to you to say, what are we even holding on to so tight? Oh, it's because we don't know the power within ourselves. And we think that we have to just work this way. And what do most people do in the US? Work that way, work themselves to the point where they then retire.
Mm-hmm.
And our life expectancy in the US correlates with retirement. If you go to the blue zones where they live a completely different kind of, different radio station, they live until they're 108. So who wins,
Mm-hmm.
right? The people who are baking bread with their great grandkids and riding a bicycle at 111 and not taking pharmaceuticals because they're not in chronic pain? Or is the person richer because they did it? They held on, right? They had a mortgage payment. They paid it. Now they're dead. And their whole life was being in that place of, I have to hold on. Like, I really like, so that's when you realize what's on the top of the ladder that you're working toward. What does it mean for you to be rich? My contention, though, and why I was talking about Walt Disney and Steve Jobs, is that you get to have both. King David was one of the wealthiest people in history. Okay. If you add inflation and everything else, he was richer than Steve, right? And he wrote every hallelujah, every psalm. We're still saying it. You don't have to actually choose, but most people don't know how. It's a harder test
Mm-hmm.
to be connected to money because you start letting that money rule you. Now you're in the fear. Now you're in the grip.
Right.
Versus if you start like Steve Jobs for 15 years before Apple, he just was a monk. People don't know that. But when you start in that place, you know that nothing can take that from you. Now you're in wholeness. We create abundance from wholeness, not from lack. So of course Apple was going to become the wealthiest company ever in history because he created it from feeling that abundant. He didn't need it to make him feel anything. He wasn't worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers the question.
Well, it takes a lot of trust to make that leap. So from what, and I know exactly what Karen's referring to, so I can speak from that context where, yes, what you're saying is the kawaii thing. I intrinsically, I feel it. I know, I get it. It's a matter of that fear is so ingrained in you. It's so a part of you because of however many years of programming. And possibly you have gone through something in the past that has shown you, if this happens, this is the result. And it was not a positive result at that point. So then how do you allow yourself to resonate to I guess, what Bob and Royce call it resonant tuning, where you tune yourself to a level that you can be zen about not having a job?
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different way of looking at what did you come here for, right? And to me, most people are so tied to, I need to be successful, but the soul isn't interested in that. The soul says, I don't need success. I need significance. I want to make an impact every day.
Right.
And so is my bank account in how much money I have or how many people I touched from really being present, from not being in a rush?
Right.
And how rich was I? Did I eat that apple and enjoy it and listen to the birds? Or did I make money today, but I missed out on every other moment? So it's really, and then what's so powerful, and everyone can do this, is you can play a game with the universe. You can say to God, okay, show me the receipts. I'm going to start living today more from this place of trust and ease. And I want you to show me that I'm on the right path, and you will see it. I'll give you a great example. When I started my podcast, and by the way, it's a really interesting story because when I went to Los Angeles from Jerusalem, I just felt this this instinct to use my voice. I always wanted to be a songwriter, and I moved to LA and I had a record deal at Interscope, and then I got dropped, and then I had a record deal at Atlantic Records. I'm like, oh, Atlantic Records makes so much more sense for me. I got dropped from Atlantic.
Right.
Then I wound up writing music for TV shows like Grey's Anatomy and Pretty Little Liars for 10 years. And I would hear my songs in McDonald's commercials, and I was making like 400 grand a year, and I had my kids, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. There was a whole other path. Then I started a podcast. So I started a podcast at 37 years old, and my friend says to me, everybody who has a podcast needs Apple to feature you on Apple Podcasts. Because at the time it was just Apple. There was not Spotify, wasn't in the game. There was no Google Play, nothing. So she said, Apple is going to host an event in Anaheim for podcasters. This is 2017. She said, you have to be there and you have to meet the Apple people. I'm like, okay, fine. So I was nursing my youngest daughter. I've been bringing a breast pump with me to Anaheim. I'm like, so not in the headspace. My daughter's like, a few months old. I have a 3-year-old at home. I have a 4-year-old at home, and I'm going to Anaheim. And I walk into this networking event, and I was like, static. Everyone was fake. Everybody was in the matrix. I got to be this. I got to hi. It's just like, no one cared. No one, those moments, right?
Yeah.
So I said to myself, I know better than this. This doesn't feel good, And then I'm going to try to get someone from Apple to do something for me. It's like, that's not how life works, right? Like life, there's like social norms, if you make a deposit with someone and they genuinely want to help you, they'll help you, right? Anyway, so long story short, I say to my friend, when does the conference actually begin when the networking ends? She says, in about 90 minutes. I said, great, I'll come back. So I leave and I go to a different hotel about 2 blocks away, and I sit down and I order an iced tea. And I felt everything was right in the world again. Mm-hmm. I wasn't feeling small. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I didn't even have business cards with me. So I sit down and this man comes in, he's reading the newspaper, and we realize that we're both wearing the same badge from the conference. And he says to me, were you at that conference? And I said, yeah. He goes, that energy is like a lot. And I said, I know it's a lot. So I came here. He said, me too. So we start talking. He says he's from Chicago, and my ex-husband, who's still like one of my closest friends, that's a whole soul. We have such a soul contract. Anyway, he's from Chicago. So I said, I love Midwesterners because, my ex is like the nicest person you've ever met in your life, the most honest, ethical. So we started talking about the Midwest. And then next thing I know, it's 40 minutes later. And he's like, here's my card. I'm the head of Apple Podcasts, and I would love to show you around the offices.
Wow. Okay. That's.
But then I look at his card and it says Culver City. And I said, wait a minute. My daughter goes to my oldest is in kindergarten. And I said, it's on a street across from this black building that has valet parking and no sign on that building. And I've always wondered, why are there like cool Escalades and Porsches pulling up and there's no sign? And he goes, that's Apple. I said, I'm going to be there tomorrow morning, dropping her off. He goes, great, come have breakfast with me. I go have breakfast with the head of Apple. He sits me down. He goes, you're the best person I met at that whole conference because you weren't trying. And we start talking and we start having deep conversations. He goes, do you want to come with me to New York City? So he takes me to the podcast upfronts. He starts mentoring me. Within a year, my show had 1 million downloads. Okay.
Wow.
So the question is it working for you? Like holding the wheel and not giving it over and saying, no, there's got to be a miracle here.
Right.
I'm here for the miracle. I'm here for the mystical. I'm here for the ease. I'm not here for this. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's the question, right? There's a book called The Third Door. My friend Alex Benayan wrote it. And he interviewed Lady Gaga, Steven Spielberg, Warren Buffett, Maya Angelou. He interviewed all these people. And he called the book The Third Door because he said, every nightclub, everyone's waiting in line, waiting around the block. He goes, and the people I interviewed, they all did the same thing. They didn't wait in the line. They went in through the side door. But the side door, he said, it's always there. It's just you don't know. You're too scared to leave the line. Because everyone around you says, don't leave the line. You got to work. You got to stand here. Where do you think you're going leaving this line? Mm-hmm. Leaving the line is trust. Leaving the line is, I don't need to be in the state of urgency. I'm going to bring it. I'm just going to go allow, you know what, God, you got this. The universe has got this. I'm going to do my job, which is to be in the highest frequency, to tune that radio every day to trust, tune that radio to wholeness. And he talks about these people Maya Angelou, Steven Spielberg, he goes, everyone, same thing. But he said the hardest part of the journey to the third door is leaving the line because of the fear, because it's been programmed into you. That's what you're going to leave the conference? I literally left. I walked out. And who was there on the other side? The head of Apple Podcasts, because he walked out. Because we're on the same wavelength. And what do people say to you? I feel like I'm just on your wavelength. That's true. Mm-hmm. So are you trying to move through effort or through resonance? When you're at a certain resonance, of course, I mean, in 1998, I was 18. I was flying standby from New York City. It was my grandmother's 80th birthday in New York. And I was flying back to Florida State. And there was a stopover in Atlanta, and it was in snowstorm. It was February 3rd. I could not get out of New York City. I was this flight. I kept missing flights. And then at one point there was a couple. There was one seat. I was like, you could have it. I missed another flight. And then this woman goes, okay, you're the 7th person on the standby list. I'm never getting out of here. And then it turned out they had one seat, and the 6 other people were in a couple, and they did not want to split up. So she gave me the seat. I said, fine. I get on the airplane. They put me in first class, and I'm like, I've never flown first class. Now I do, but then that was new. That was really cool. Who's sitting next to me? Number 23, Michael Jordan, sitting next to me. Yeah. And he turns to me and he's like, what's your story? I'm like, because we were waiting for 2 hours. They were de-icing the plane. And he's like, what's your story? I'm like, I'm in college. He's like, what are you dreaming of? And I sit there for 2 hours. There are no iPads at that time. Just me and MJ, the whole flight to Atlanta. We get off the plane. He's going to some all-star game. And I go, God makes all my appointments. Of course I missed those 5 flights.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I gave my seat to this other woman. Okay. Does it clock or does it not clock?
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So I literally sat next to Michael Jordan in it, like the two of us. Who people would pay anything for that. I wasn't even a basketball fan. I got back to Florida State that night. My friend Andre, I remember I walked into the dining hall and I told the story. He dropped his tray. He was so angry. He's like, that is so unfair. He's like, you don't even care. Like, it's wasted on you. Oh my God, you don't even follow the board, the bulls. I'm like, I don't. I literally don't. Like, I mean, I'm like low key a fan, but like I was, a total girl at 18, not interested. He was like, I can't even hear this story. It makes me so angry. Right? That's a true story. That's facts. That's receipts. So you either get to be right and live from fear and hold on, or you let go and you say, all right, let's go. Let's play ball.
All right. Kathy, let's go. Karen,
wow.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go, man.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I have so many other things I wanted to talk to you about. Perfection.
I just wanted to listen.
In fact, I almost said at the very beginning of the show, this is a show that you're going to hear very little from us because I just love your stories. No, I swear.
Holy cow.
Absolutely. Perfectionism is trauma response. The opposite of depression is purpose. There's so much I wanted to talk to you about still. Kabbalah. But we didn't get a chance to. We're unfortunately
a lot of that is really in there, right? Ultimately,
yeah.
Because all of this has to do with being a receiver, which is what Kabbalah is all about,
right?
And certainty, right? Our only job is to have that certainty that we are always at the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. And letting go of the perfectionism is everything we were just talking about. It's letting go of the need to do it a certain way and actually say, what would be the most fun thing I could do today? Because that's where I'm meant to be.
But I love the fact that you say it's a trauma response because it's so flipping true.
So true. True.
It's just that conversation alone. I'm so sad we were never able to have. But I know that your book is out already, so even better, people can actually get it. So tell us about it.
I loved writing it. This is this book. I mean, this is the hardcover, but the soft cover's over there. It says tools for creating a life of prosperity and ease, because it's about what I said, right? Leaving the conference is ease, right? And that's where all of it is when you leave, when you actually move toward trust. So it's a really fun book. It has a lot of like tools and exercises in it. It teaches a lot about Kabbalah. It'll make you feel really close to the divine. And I was really happy that, I mean, same thing, like very inside baseball. My publisher, Simon and Schuster, was like, okay, what are you going to do to hit the New York Times list? What are you going to do to hit the USA Today list? I'm like, nothing. Like my soul's job was writing the book, whatever's meant to happen. And it hit the USA Today bestseller list multiple times. Like when the hardcover came out, when the softcover came out, I hit it again and again. And I was like, for me, it's like the soul doesn't care about the outcome. It cares about showing up for the assignment.
Right.
God's business is the outcome.
Right.
So yeah, I don't get hooked into that ego stuff. I have to do this. That's not my job. That's not my job.
Well, it's called Abundant Ever After if you're looking for it. And if you like the stories that Kathy tells, you're going to love the book. So we're going to add a direct link in our show notes so you can find it. But Kathy, someone wants to reach out to you. Oh, your podcast, Everything is Energy. I've been listening to it for a while. It's a great show. If someone wanted to reach out to you and connect in some way, what's the best way for them to do that?
You know what? I'm so excited, Will, because this just happened literally yesterday. We built a new website, kathyheller.com, got an upgrade, and there's so much on it. There's like affirmations. You can just reading through it makes you feel like it changes your mood in 12 seconds. You can find my podcast there. I'm also on Instagram every day at kathy.heller, but I just love the new website. It came out yesterday, and I highly recommend people go look at it because there's so much on there, and the podcast and every ways you can work with me, workshops we're doing. It's all at kathyheller.com, and Kathy's with a C.
Awesome. Hot off the presses. You heard it here first.
Yes.
kathyheller.com. Brand new website. Kathy, you are remarkable. Thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us today, because this was so
I feel
amazing.
like I've been switched out of AM to FM.
Well,
I love that, Karen.
And now we got to make the leap to XM. That's the next step. All right, Kathy, thank you.
Thank you both so much. Thank you for being so loving and lovable and cute and hanging in there when I couldn't get the tech to work.
No, I think the tech is probably our fault. But thank you for being so gracious.
No, it's not.
And we really appreciate you taking time and spending some time with us.
My pleasure.